Good evening and welcome to Perspective. Tonight, India has announced its upgrade of its technical mission in Kabul to a full-blown embassy, marking its first high-level engagement with Taliban since 2021. Of course, it raises concerns of inclusive governance in Afghanistan and also, of course, India's approach highlighting issues such as barring of women journalists from Taliban conferences, their perceived double standards on human rights, efforts to counter Pakistan's constructive role in Afghan peace. And later on in the Middle East, Israel and Hamas have reached an agreement after 3 days of indirect talks in Egypt, with US President Donald Trump aiming to incorporate this deal on his broader initiative of peace. These developments, of course, underscore interconnected challenges of diplomacy, regional security. We'll be talking about all of that today on Perspective. I have with me SUMAIRA, who's a foreign affairs expert, SHAZIA Malik, who's a foreign journalist joining us from Canada, and HUSSEIN ASKARY from from West Asia, who's also a Middle East expert, a little later on. I'm going to start with SUMAIRA. SUMAIRA, as far as this development is concerned, SHAZIA is with us right now. SHAZIA, as far as this development is concerned, of course, it underscores one, the involvement, the interference that we've seen that has consistently come from the Indian side. First of all, how are you looking at it? How, of course, and the perception of it in the world, where of course we have seen, the double standards that we've seen come from the Afghan Taliban, whereas with regards to women, with regards to the treatment of journalists also. How do you look at it?
Thank you very much for the opportunity, MAHRUKH, once again. Well, it's being looked like a dark chapter in the history of India, not only across the globe, but inside India also. People are extremely upset, whether it is P. Chidambaram or Kirti Chidambaram, or it is Sonia Gandhi Vadra, or Rahul Gandhi, or Shiv Sena's Priyanka Chaturvedi, or it is TMC's Mahua Moitra. So it is not really just one party that has talked about it, and it is extremely important to understand that a country like India that has its own laws according to the constitution, and it says that it gives all the liberty to women, where are those laws? Now, very stupidly, I must say, if I can use this word, BJP's Pradeep Bhandari quoted the Vienna Convention, and he said that according to Vienna Convention 1961, its Article 22, the foreign missions within their confines can do whatever they wish to. But what Mr. Bhandari missed in the Vienna Convention also is that any diplomatic mission in any country needs to follow the laws of the host country. So the host country, which is India, talks about Shakti Nari, Nari Shakti, and Beti Padhao and Beti Bachao. So why they did not stand up? And I must say, P. Chidambaram's question is absolutely apt when he said that why these male journalists stayed there when their female colleagues were not allowed in. So there is a lot of questioning and heat that is going on, and people are asking them why Mr. Modi did not stand up for the laws of the country. But what do you expect from these people like Mr. Modi and S. J. Shankar, who always lie? You must have seen
You're right that when we talk about Modi and of course Jai Shankar, there is a context to what's happened. There's no denying that. But let me stop you there and take you back to this tilt or this shift, so to speak, from an India that was talking about, like you said, Beti Padhao, or talking about women's rights, advocacy of it, and the way that they've always said that they are, of course, the religious freedom that they've spoken about. Of course, we know that it's a hoax, we know that it's a facade, but this tilt, how do you see it? How does it expose them further? How does it, it's a nail in their coffin, the final nail in their coffin of the kind of India that they've always painted, as far as the world is concerned, and how the globe looks at this development. Let's start with that.
Yeah, definitely. You might have seen the messages coming from the opposition there, where they said that the messaging of Emirate of Afghanistan was very ironic. And they have themselves been saying that this Taliban government has been killing Hindus, that has been killing Sikhs, and they have been extremely vocal about this. The BJP itself, I mean, opposition definitely, and the BJP itself has been hitting hard on the Taliban government. In fact, some of their leaders, they have been, criticizing our Didi, that is the West Bengal Chief Minister Mamta Banerjee, of having a Taliban mindset. So if you hate Taliban and you have not actually recognized this government, how are you posing up? Yes, definitely. We understand this very, very, clearly, that they want to damage Pakistan's efforts. And Mr. S. Shankar's comment, I was just laughing my head off when he said that Afghanistan and India are facing terrorism from Pakistan. I mean, like, seriously, Mr. S. Shankar, are you actually a diplomat when you say such things, when you lie so blatantly? You have been sponsoring, your country has been sponsoring terrorism across the globe. Your people were actually caught in the act, and you blame Pakistan. Even just now, the ISPR press conference that you might have seen, I'm sure, where they said, where they called them fitna al khawarij. And I would say Indian sponsored terrorists are being caught every now and then in Pakistan, who are creating this havoc in this country. And you have the cheek to say that Afghanistan and India are being the victims of Pakistan. No, sir, no. The
We
whole
talk
world
about,
now knows.
when we talk about what's happened internally as far as India is concerned, you know, of course, what is of concern to the world when we look at this region, and we go back to the, you know, the UNGA address of the Prime Minister also, when we spoke about this region and, you know, the fact that it needs inclusivity, it needs for there to be some kind of working relationship in terms of, you know, the neighbors, so to speak. And Pakistan has extended itself in that regard. This development and, you know, what the potential ramifications of this development can mean for terrorism, let's look at that.
Yes, absolutely. So if they have not understood the mindset of the Taliban that they have been talking about for some time, that Pakistan extended them a friendly hand, hosted their refugees, and see what Pakistan is suffering: massive terrorism, terrorist attacks. So if India thinks that it can escape from this TTP and TLP and all the other groups being sponsored from outside, they can save themselves from terrorism, they are absolutely at loss. They are going to face this problem themselves. So if they are intelligent, and if they have learned anything from history, and if they have seen what has been going on in the neighborhood because of Afghanistan, all this terrorism emanating from there, and you are a country that did not even recognize the Taliban government, and you are giving
But
it a
Shazia,
status of now a mission. I mean, how shameful is that?
But Shazia, is it a strategic adjustment in your opinion, or is this, you know, just hypocrisy, as far as, you know, policy hypocrisy one can call it? But do you think there is a strategic shift there that they're talking, you know, they're angling towards?
Yes, definitely both. I mean, it is their hypocrisy. Like, I'm just saying that they don't even recognize the Taliban government. And then, of course, that is a strategic shift, because they want to damage Pakistan, that is now stabilizing slowly and steadily. And this is definitely not in their interest, for the simple fact their adventure of their Operation Sindhur, and now the whole world is investing in Pakistan. They are looking towards Pakistan. They want to damage this whole thing. They couldn't digest this whole big, security agreement that Pakistan had with Saudi. Then the Prime Minister, your Prime Minister, has been going around in Malaysia and other places, and in US itself, there is now a very positive vibe about Pakistan. So they just simply cannot digest this. And as a result, they want to actually use Afghanistan's soil to, continue with these terrorist attacks. now on Pakistan. So that's their mindset, that's exactly what they want to do. So this strategic shift is actually to damage and destroy Pakistan. But the Pakistani forces also are not really sleeping. They are going to give them a befitting reply like they did during Operation Sindoor. So, and they are going to face this terrorism emanating from Afghanistan, just like, unfortunately, Pakistan has faced. So this.
We look at, when we, we know that at a Taliban press conference, women journalists were excluded. That kind of, in New Delhi. And that itself, considering India's claim of supporting media freedom, of course, we saw that fall to the ground even during Pahalgam and the way that the news coverage happened, and we saw that there really is little to no independence as far as media in India is concerned. But when you look at this kind of, is it an endorsement of double standards for men and women journalists? Is it an endorsement of double standards for women and general and the Taliban way of life, which has excluded women in so many affairs and still continues to do so?
Yes, absolutely. I just quoted Mr. P. Chidambaram. He said that shamelessly these male journalists stayed there. According to Indian constitution, women have equal rights in that country. I mean, as far as their constitution is concerned. Otherwise, you have said it rightly, the media doesn't have any freedom. It is all called Godi media, as was coined by Mr. Ravish Kumar. So the Godi media should have protested, at least if the government was not really protesting. And then, I mean, it is very obvious otherwise that the UNICEF reports and their own think tanks, the way women are treated there. But this actually is a blatant disrespect to women in their country when they did not let female journalists enter the embassy premises. The Modi government should have stood firm over there, and that is what Rahul Gandhi is asking. Why Mr. Modi did not take any action? Why?
When we talk about, I think that you very, very accurately mentioned Rahul Gandhi. I wanted to come to that. He's asking this again and again as the opposition leader, that what is the kind of India that is being bred around him under Modi Sarkar, and the extremism, the Hindutva, and that is now extending to, of course, the rights of women and the way that they're treated at this time. When we look at, consistent with Taliban policy, let's see, we know their policy as far as women is concerned. We know how difficult as far as education is concerned, as far as going to schools is concerned, the right to simple endeavors like that, and that the way that Taliban policy has consistently been against women's rights. Let's hear what was said by Malala on this.
3.5 years have ripped away the right to learn from every Afghan girl. They have weaponized our faith, to justify it. The Taliban are explicit about their mission. They want to eliminate women and girls from every aspect of public life.
We heard what Malala talked about, when she mentioned what was being done, the way that women's rights are choked by Taliban. When India stands with those, that rejection of women's rights that Taliban have stood for, what kind of an India is it that to the world was saying that they're a secular India, that they are a free India, that they're an India that allows the freedom of rights, whether it is women's rights, whether it is the freedom to exercise your religious faith. When we look at a history of Taliban, the way that this nexus of Taliban and India at this time, and the way that they're coming closer, is it an exposure to the world to what India really stands for under the Modi Sarkar, the way that it has consistently tried to camouflage the reality from the world? Is it now coming forward in ways, new to people, and the way that it is now being exposed to the world, Shazia, like never before. You know, we saw what happened with rights to, you know, Kashmir and the way that, you know, the treatment of women there, the treatment of children there, you know, what is happening there. And then we talk about what's happening within India, and we talk about what's happening with their own women, what's happening with women's rights within India. And then this nexus with Taliban, where does it take us?
They will take them to destruction, as I said. The rights have absolutely been wiped. Like I just said, their media has become Godi media. But I must say, when I started journalism, our gurus used to tell us, look at India, look at their secularism, and see how bold their journalists is. Today, the whole media is sitting in the lap of Mr. Modi. And they are absolutely not allowed. I don't know if you have seen this interview of Arundhati Roy on Ziteo with Mehdi Hassan, where she very, very clearly talked about how these freedoms for the religious, for the minorities and other groups have been are being wiped out in India. Anybody who speaks against the Modi government or the Modi policies, they are immediately labeled as anti-India and anti-Modi, and then they face all these what you call their agencies. They start coming behind them. So if India has to keep its secular fabric, if it exists anymore, or if it says that it is one of the biggest democracies of the world, again, there is a big question about it, but at least as far as the perception is there, if they want to keep that, then they need to protest in the strongest words for what happened to their female journalists. But this facade is definitely of secularism and democracy and fair play and following the rule of law and constitution. It is all falling very, very badly. And now it is going to come back and bite India, because not only Congress, but each and every other party, opposition party, is asking them, where are the policies of Mr. Modi? Do you have any spine at all to stand up for your Nari Shakti that you have been talking about? Where is your spine? Why you have not? Because the host country is in India, and India's laws should be respected by Taliban, which they did not. So why you did not, talk about it, Mr. Modi? So everybody's talking. So India needs to understand that if in their country somebody like a Taliban, representative comes and says that, oh, I have no regard for your laws, then it is really time for them to wake up.
Right, definitely. Thank you so much, Shazia. Thank you for joining us on this very important topic, and of course, your very valuable input. Interestingly, when we look at the photograph on the wall behind the presser that took place, it's of the Bamiyan Valley. And the site was, of course, where the giant Buddha statue once stood. Of course, the fact that, what that statue stood for. And when we talk about what it means when the fact that it has been now, these were masterpieces of Kandahara civilization, presenting a unique blend. And Afghanistan role, of course, and it's ironic when we see this presser happen with the Taliban there, and this destruction that it shows of not just, that has sparked worldwide outrage at this, has consistently. And of course, the picture on the wall is also an empty niche where the iconic image of symbolizing Afghanistan's ancient glory now has been eliminated. So that itself is something that is something that we can all reflect over, and what it means, the nexus between India and Afghanistan, and the absence when we talk about religious freedom, when we talk about a secular India, when we talk about this nexus between India and the Afghan Taliban. And of course, the gap between extremism and the gap between the kind of Hindutva doctrine that we are seeing being closed so conclusively that of course now the two seem to be one at even as we talk. And the future of it, the way that it's going to reflect on India, the way that it's going to reflect, and of course Hindustan now standing for that kind of Hindutva, that kind of extremism that the world has to be ready for, that the world has to now acknowledge is a menace that exists, which is what Pakistan has consistently been saying. If we look at the presser of the DGIS PR yesterday, we look at Fitnatul Kharij, we look at Fitnatul Hindustan, which is what Pakistan has consistently been saying to the world, which, warning them of the nefarious designs of a country like India, and the way that they were going to, transcend into other countries and going to, breed the kind of terrorism that we've consistently seen play out in Pakistan. I have with me SUMAIRA Khan, who's a foreign affairs expert. Thank you for being with us. SUMAIRA, we know that, like I said, the nexus between the Taliban and Hindustan, India at this time, and the way that it has, drawn closer. First of all, is it about, your enemy is, my friend, because and the way that we've seen them come closer, and it's a broader signaling for the world? How do you see it? SUMAIRA, can you hear me? I'm saying that as far as nexus between, a closer nexus between Taliban and India, the fact that, this is a Taliban that India once rejected, this is a Taliban that India once called extremist, this is a Taliban that India criticized for its policies against women, and this is the very Taliban that they seem to be getting closer to, the nexus between them, the closeness that now we can see, and the fact that it signals so many things in the broader context of what India now stands for. Isn't that true?
Yeah, I think I must agree with you on most of the things you just mentioned, because what we were seeing, the scenario actually, I must give you my personal opinion on that, because I was covering all the issues right directly from Afghanistan. And when we were seeing all the developments that were happening post US troop withdrawal from Afghanistan, there was one aircraft from Indian Air Force, C-17 Globemaster, that was present at the tarmac of Kabul International Airport. And that aircraft was there to pick up all the Indian citizens and nationals from Kabul for withdrawal. It was ready to withdraw. And the crew at that aircraft, it was literally kicking all the Afghans. Like they were throwing them literally not to get boarded that plane. But now it's the same India. They are extending olive branches to Afghans. And it was not just one incident that I have witnessed personally, but I can also mention a lot of incidents that the former parliamentarians, when they tried to enter India and they were sent back from Indian airports, from Delhi airport and from Mumbai, back to Afghanistan, and then they were seeking refuge from Pakistan, not just to avoid their deportation process to Afghanistan. Then India was the only country that revoked 70,000 visas from Afghan nationals. So if we think that Afghans, they don't know how India works, we are totally mistaken. They know how India works. They know when Afghanistan is needed for India, and they actually know why Afghanistan is required by India at this very moment, because India is right now injured. I use this word post Bunyanul Marsus and Marka-e-Haq by Pakistan, where Pakistan had very clear win over India, and they cannot do anything about it. They know that they have been defeated in the world of kinetic measures. They know they have been punctured. They know they have been given the sort of dent it will take them years to. And I actually think that not years, but I think it's going to be infinity for them to live with that embarrassment. So now they are not focusing on more kinetic, but they are looking for more non-kinetic measures. Once again, they'll be trying different cultural ways that India is famous for. But I think they are mistaken. The time where we are living, world has been it's the most advanced time in the world right now. Global community is no more living in a dark era. It's technology thing, and that is why we took advantage of all that technology era, and we proved our significance in the operational battlefield over India. We have an edge over India, keeping in view that India has one of the largest armies in the world. I think we are. There is no other there is no other argument that people are still searching.
So, Meera, when we talk about, I'm going to interject here. When we talk about the fact that this outreach and the fact that it seems that it's less about peace and more about optics or regional upmanship, which is what is being said, especially, of course, to dilute our own positive role that we've seen. We've always talked about an inclusive Afghan settlement. Is it going to, in your opinion, aimed at undercutting, broader regional efforts? Is it also risking legitimizing non-inclusive regime like Afghanistan?
I think it's too early to say that, but why Pakistan has been advocating this all-inclusive affair in Afghan government. Let me take you back to the era when all this discussion it started, when the preliminary section was started of Doha Accord and like all the things. Then Pakistan was the first country that stated the policy towards Afghanistan, that Pakistan is right now in a position to explore more into, not strategic but economic ways into Afghanistan. And this thing coming from Pakistan was really welcomed by the global community as well, that were in the process to look forward to find ways how to mitigate all the ways to normalize Afghanistan. But I think Afghanistan can only get better if people of Afghanistan are sincere with it. We saw that time that intra-Afghan dialogue was bashed by Afghanistan's own people. Like, by saying that Afghanistan own people, I don't mean those common poor people who are right now in the sufferings. I mean that elite power corridor that was enjoying perks and privileges and government offices, and that war economy money flowing into Afghanistan, trillions of dollars they'd been enjoying for years. They brought another generation to the parliament corridors of Afghanistan, but they never thought about in depth that what is going to happen after this war economy will be lifted by America. And it exactly happened. The moment they left, the entire empire of Afghan's war economy, it just collapsed in no time. And right now what's happening, it's in front of you. So right now they're again trying to find out some short-term solutions to overcome their own dilemmas. Pakistan had been advocating from day one intra-Afghan dialogue, and they did not listen to it. They did not give that.
But doesn't it also raise questions about, we've been grappling with whether there is an inability to deal with terrorism or there is an insincerity. What does this nexus tell us then about the Taliban or about the interference of India?
I think you and we are still trying to figure out. Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, so what I think, it's very interesting. Let me spread a fact sheet in front of you. Why they would be trying to overcome the difficulties that are right now hindering Afghanistan's development. They would never. In fact, they want Afghanistan in such destabilized position, a country that is having ragtag army, no disciplined institutions, central bank is collapsed, economy is just flowing through the all those international trade corridors with Iran, Pakistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. Why they would be putting any sort of effort into that? They are having easy money from all the countries. Global community is expressing its sympathy to the people of Afghanistan. So actually they have started enjoying this situation, that, okay, this type of Afghanistan is more in our favor. People are forced to talk to us. They would be speaking to us because there is humanitarian situation, crisis that is soaring day by day. They're actually not worried about their people, but the tag they want to achieve in the region is that, yes, we are that goon of the region that you should be scared of. And this is why they have been allowing all these more than 24 terrorist organizations to establish their base camps in Afghanistan. Why do you think cigar reports are being initiated by Pakistan? No. All the Security Council reports, all the security reviews being tabled in the offices, highest offices of UN, are they being initiated, compiled, directed, and submitted by Pakistan? No. These are the international organization, those who are evaluating the situation in Afghanistan on their own with a lot of independent resources. They are not depending on us. And that is the same report that states that Pakistan is facing terrible terrorism due to Majid Brigade, BLA, present in Afghanistan. And let me draw your attention to another very worrisome situation, that this 35th review of the Security Council of UN, that yesterday I mentioned it to DGISPR as well, that it mentioned that the Majid Brigade, BLA, these are the fractions that are using women as a suicide bomber against Pakistan. So if UN is mentioning it, then you should be thinking that right now, I'm thinking actually, I'm forced to trust the fact that yes, Afghanistan is soaring to be totally anti-Pakistan country in the neighborhood, which it shouldn't, because it is not going to affect Pakistan. We'll somehow conquer terrorism, and we have been fighting terrorism for last 23 years. So let it be, like, bring it on. Pakistan is in such state. Pakistan has faced a lot. So it transforms us as a thick skinned nation now. So we can handle it, but the sort of outcome that is going to be for Afghanistan after
cost, you're right, that the cost that the Afghanistan itself will pay and its people will pay. I think that's a broader question, and that's a more relevant question. Because like you said, Pakistan can insulate itself against terrorism, but can those innocent people do so? When of course clearly a fragmented Afghanistan is in the interests of India. Thank you so much for being with us, Sumaira. Thank you for us today. Moving on, we'll be talking about the developments in Middle East at this time, of course, and after a short break, please stay with us. We're joined by Hussein Askary, who is an expert on Middle East to, of course, the situation at this time. Hussein, as far as Netanyahu is concerned, of course, there are repeated statements that Israel is not just, their goal is not just return of hostages, but a complete destruction of Hamas. In that kind of an environment, do you think that, it is something to be something to be feared, that we see that, or risky at least, that Israel could resume its military campaign in Gaza even after the current deal is implemented?
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure for me. Of course, first of all, we are all happy that our brothers and sisters and their children in Gaza are being relieved from the suffering and the killing, which has been going on for more than 2 years now. And that there is a glimmer of hope for a solution to this problem. What has been presented so far is not really a peace plan, but it's a ceasefire. Now, in the meantime, as responding to your question, is that nobody should trust the Netanyahu's government and the extreme Zionists and the Israeli government, because their ultimate objective is to create the greater Israel where there are no Palestinians. That has been the objective they had from this war, to exterminate or force the Palestinian people to leave Gaza and later the West Bank so they can establish their greater Israel. Now, Netanyahu will not accept of his own will to any solution. He will have, and his acolytes in his government have to be forced by outside. They will not stop until they are stopped by an outside force to forget about the greater Israel and allow a two-state solution where the Palestinians can have their own state and live peacefully. What happened is that President Trump, after the pressure he got internationally and even from the nations in the region, he had to tell Netanyahu, and only that's unfortunate, but that's also could be an advantage. Only the American president can tell Netanyahu and the Israelis to stop. And he told them they have to stop because they cannot fight against the whole world. Because the United States can win Israel, but lose the rest of the world, including the Arab and Muslim countries. The United States or the Trump administration can win the Israeli lobby in the United States, but lose the rest of the American people, who now they see the Trump administration is and Congress are saying Israel first, not America first. And this is frustrating for people. So Netanyahu and his people will try to use any occasion to go back to this genocide and force the Israelis the Palestinian people out of Gaza. But this will not happen. The Palestinian people have shown through their resistance and patience that they are made of a different metal.
Hussein, like you mentioned, this approach of the President of the United States, it seems to be starkly different from that of Biden's. We've seen, sending Jared Kushner, pushing Netanyahu to apologize to Qatar after, the failed Doha strike. Is it Trump's more transactional, pressure-based approach more effective, in your opinion, in shaping Israel's behavior? Perhaps, and we can look at it in a positive light. How do you see it?
Yeah, we all have to be a bit optimistic and hopeful, although we know the shortcomings of President Trump and his people and the people around him, especially Jared Kushner. But they, as you said, they are transactional. They look around them and they say, okay, what is the best solution here for us? How can we take advantage of this situation? The problem is that the United States should accept certain realities, changes that have taken place in the world, that the United States is not number one anymore. There are other powers in the world. You have Russia, you have China, you have the BRICS, you have the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, you have the Global South rising, and even the closest allies of the United States in the region are looking eastward. They don't trust the United States, they don't trust the British, they don't trust the EU anymore, and they are looking for other alternatives.
Hussein, that seems a very a very small possibility under the current president of the US. Isn't that true?
Yes, there's a very small possibility, but you look what happened with the trade war. He has to accept reality because the trade war with China, as we saw yesterday in the US stock markets, were collapsing because he threatened China. And the US markets saying, what are you doing? You cannot challenge China anymore. So the current president, he has to look at the reality around him and accept these new realities and act accordingly. I cannot guarantee that he will do that, but there are many people around him are saying, look, we cannot do this thing the way we believed to do it before because we are not the number one anymore. There are other powers in the world who have, much more leverage than we do. Military power in itself has been shown obsolete in Afghanistan, in Yemen, in Iraq, everywhere. You can destroy, but you can never win people's minds and hearts. And that's the reality. Now, if you allow me, there is a possibility. Now, if President Trump comes to, not Israel, if he goes to Egypt, he will see this new reality. And people in, like President El-Sisi, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and others from the region, and probably Pakistani Prime Minister and Indonesian Prime Minister say, look, you have to look at reality. We are willing to accept peace. We are willing to accept a two-state solution. We are supporting this a comprehensive peace. But it should be based on justice, that the Palestinian people should have their state. They should have their sovereignty over their own lands according to international law. But then, which is missing in this whole picture, is what we are proposing is a comprehensive regional economic reconstruction and development plan, so that the Palestinian people and all people in the region can see that there's a future for their children and grandchildren through economic development, solving the water problems, the infrastructure problems, the joblessness, the environmental degradation, the expansion of the desert. All these things we have developed with the International Schiller Institute, a plan we call the Oasis Plan. And this is a very comprehensive plan. It actually extends from Pakistan, Afghanistan, all the way to the Mediterranean. It includes Palestine in the core, but also the region around Palestine. It extends to Yemen, Iraq, Iran, Pakistan, all these countries in what we today like the Belt and Road Initiative is a great example of that. So President Trump has to be told that the world is changing and there's a constructive role for the United States to play here. Military power will not solve problems. Economic, technological, and goodwill power will solve problems.
Well, one hopes that, that reality will permeate to the president of the US. But, like you said, the jury is clearly out on whether he'll be able to comprehend these realities, like you said, of a changing world. But that said, like you said, as far as Israel hostages, being exchanged for the Palestinian prisoners, even if we get beyond that, of course, there are outstanding issues, like you also said, like demilitarization, Gaza's reconstruction, recognition of Palestine's statehood. Based on what you've seen, Trump's 20-point, framework, is it, in your opinion, capable of delivering lasting peace, considering the whole scenario at this time?
No, it does not. It's not, as I said, it's not a peace plan, it's a ceasefire plan. And it's designed to make the Israelis happy, but also accepting realities. You remember, Hamas told the world that we will not accept anything by force. We will only accept things to be done on the negotiations table. The hostages will come back through the negotiations table, not through armed enforcement. This is what has happened. So this is a ceasefire plan, and the Israelis, of course, they are not happy with the outcome, which is developing now, because every point in the 20 points of Trump plan has loopholes, it has many ambiguities. That's not really the issue. The issue is that this has created a hopeful staging ground for a more comprehensive peace. And that's what this is something, we should, praise should be made when praise is due for Trump, because he told Netanyahu, look, our game is not going anywhere. We have to change this thing. You cannot win this war. And this is very, very important first step. But then the following steps are more important, that we need a comprehensive an understanding of an international order, not based on military power, because military power has shown it's destructive, but doesn't lead to achieving your goals. What we have seen the last 2 years. I mean, many people say that the Palestinian issue was being erased before October 7, 2023, and now the whole world supports a Palestinian state. The Palestinian people were not removed from Gaza, no? And the whole world has turned against Israel and the United States in recognition of the rights of the Palestinian people. So the Palestinian people have won this war, actually. But the issue is not who wins.
Thank you so much for your very valuable input. On that note, yes, those realities need to permeate to the President of the United States, and for there to be lasting peace, of course, there are these questions that still remain as we sit here. And of course, the 20 plan, like you said, a point plan is really a ceasefire plan. So there needs to be a lot more work done there for there to be lasting peace in the Middle East. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.